I have so many concerns for my own children, and I look at our community here as the support group for them and a way to build a larger body that helps everybody stay on track and helps our kids grow and be responsible for their actions and understand the ramifications of the choices they make. And unfortunately for our family, when my mother's siblings were young, they didn't have that same opportunity. And one of my uncles in particular started drinking when he was 16 and fortunately became sober in his later years in life. And I'm happy to say that in my family now, people that had problems are all sober. And it's been a long, hard journey, but a very rewarding one for all of us and extremely enlightening. And I just hope that through our experience that my kids don't ever have to have the same problems that went on in our family. So with that said, and if anybody ever has any questions, I'm very open about this. Obviously, I'm standing in front of a group that doesn't really know me and talking about it. So if you ever want to talk about that, feel free to ask me, and I'm happy to have a conversation about it. So our speaker this evening began his career as a junior high science, health, and math teacher in New York, and then moved here to California and worked both in Albany, where Naomi knew him, and in Berkeley. After 14 years in that role, he shifted his focus to substance abuse prevention, conflict resolution, training of teachers and parents on both of those topics, and creating educational support groups. As the executive director of the nonprofit group Collaborations in Learning, he provided educational services to schools, communities, and individuals in the areas of substance abuse prevention, all aspects of students' assistance programs, violence prevention, peer mediation, and conflict resolution. Through these experiences, he also was able to author a guide to creating something called the Days of Respect, which is an event that helps people to understand how to prevent violence and stop violence in our own communities. From 1996 until last year, he worked for the Alameda County Office of Education as the coordinator of comprehensive school services. And this was a role that had him coordinating all the Alameda County school districts towards implementing prevention programs for drugs, tobacco, and also safe schools. Today he's going to share with us some really valuable insights about the differences between the adolescent brain and the adult brain and how they react to alcohol and drugs. I think this is incredibly important because this is the kind of information that if you can explain to your kids and help them understand this as they grow, into the ages, maybe not if they're in 3rd grade, but 5th grade, 6th grade, when they haven't really left us yet, and give them some sound reasoning, may make a difference to them. It might not, but it might make a difference, and I think that's why it's so incredibly important. Please join me in offering a warm welcome to Ralph Cantor.
Hi, everybody. This is fun to be able to do this in my own backyard here. I have with all that stuff, I got well, I have a 27-year-old daughter, but I have a boy, 8 years old, who goes to Peralta, in the 3rd grade in Peralta. So to have presented the other night at Willard and now here, this is great. You don't get appreciated in your own backyard sometimes, so this is fun to do this. Next time I got to write a little smaller introduction, and all that. I really appreciate the introduction. Basically, I was a teacher, then became a counselor, and then an administrator. And I retired in June, thinking, okay, let me just take it easy here. And boy, oh boy, it hasn't turned out that way. It's really nice to get called on to ask to do these talks, and then I just started a job at Berkeley High for 2 days a week, helping them to set up their drug alcohol stuff and run groups and do counseling stuff. So
So much more time.
This area is a money pit. I swear, it's so hard to, it's challenging. So I think it's a big deal for you guys to come out in an evening. So my whole intent is to make it worthwhile, have you walking out the door by 7:30, the latest, and hopefully get your questions answered and feel like, well, I got something out of this. I usually present to middle school or high school parents. So this is the first time presenting here, and I think as a result of this, they're going to ask me to do it in Peralta, which I think is great, you know, and I actually use the flyer from here. So we'll see how it goes, and if you want to kind of bring me back to the younger kids, please feel free to do that. But I'm going to start talking about adolescence. Okay, yeah.
Is this the same talk? Then the slides are
very similar. Yeah.
So the slides from the Willard talk are already on the Willard PTA site. So you may not have to frantically copy down everything.
Well, and what I'll do here also is give you my PowerPoint. It's a little different because I was thinking about it for here and it's different than Willard. So I'll give you my PowerPoint presentation, but in fact we can put it on your computer, you know, with my jump drive at the end, and then if you can put it on the website, that's great, so you can just not have to take notes and stuff. Because some of it is really kind of dense. I put a lot of stuff on the PowerPoint. I'm not going to be able to deal with all of it tonight, so it'll be worth really looking at that later. Okay? Okay, so here we go. So just one set of statistics and then I'll let it go, but it just seems like it's an important set of statistics. What this is California as compared to Berkeley, the state of California is compared to Berkeley, and there's only one set of stats that I took. And that was what's happened in the last 30 days. Whether or not a kid has ever used drugs or alcohol is not you know, most of you know that by the time your kids graduate high school, 85% will have tried marijuana and or alcohol, okay? But what's a more relevant statistic is what's happened in the last 30 days. That gives us a little picture of what's going on. So, in the last 30 days for alcohol, 7th grade, for the state of California, 11% drank alcohol in the last month. In Berkeley, it's 21%, 1/5. When we go up to 9th grade, a quarter of all 9th graders drank alcohol in the last month. In Berkeley, it's almost 40%. And I want to say something. For the most part, kids don't have a glass of Cabernet. That's not the way kids drink. When kids drink, they drink in order to get drunk. So a lot of this is really binge drinking, what we're talking about. Once we go to 11th grade, in the state, it's about a third have drank alcohol in the last month. In Berkeley, it's 52%. So 52% of 11th graders in Berkeley have drank alcohol in the last month, and for the most part, that's binge drinking. That's really high. And, you know, having worked at the Alameda County Office of Education, that's pretty much the highest in the county, but it's very interesting. The other two places that have very high drinking rates in Alameda County, or the highest drinking rates in Alameda County, and now Alameda County includes Oakland, Hayward, all the way down to all the way down to Fremont, all the way out to Livermore. The two highest drinking rates are Piedmont and Pleasanton. So there's something about a norm from a high socioeconomic class that has something to do with higher drinking rates. And we don't know entirely. I can give you some of my thoughts on it, but there hasn't been some great research on it, but I'll share some things around it. Marijuana. In the state, 7th graders, 5% tried it in the last month. In Berkeley, 12% of kids, and we're talking, this is really Willard and King Junior High, and Longfellow. 9th grade, 11% in the state. In Berkeley, 30% of 9th graders smoked marijuana in the past month. And we go up to 11th grade, 17% in the state, 46% in Berkeley. So there's a norm here that I want to talk about a little bit.